It's the Rob Carson Show. Are you ready to be podsmacked? Ooh. Now, here's Rob Carson.
Episode number 110. And a loaded show I have for you. One thing I'm not going to talk about today is Jim Comey's testimony. I haven't had a chance to digest it all, and everybody's talking about it, and sometimes I like to talk about things that, not everybody's talking about. So I do have some really cool stories. I've got some baseball stories coming up. I've got some just a bat guano crazy woman on the Tucker Carlson show talking about African Americans having their own Memorial Day celebration where whites are excluded. Obama smacking down the president in a very unclassy way, unlike his predecessors following their presidencies. They stayed out of the, like Obama's business. George W. Bush stayed out of his business. This is unfortunately not happening with Barack Obama. And it's kind of underhanded, and it's kind of smarmy and kind of gross. So anyway, we'll get to all that. Want to thank the sponsors of the radio program. If you've ever had a chiropractic adjustment, you know how helpful it can be. Have you ever had sciatica, when the nerve in the lower side of your back goes out or gets pinched? It's agonizing. Chiropractic has fixed that for me. Whenever I feel like it's going to happen, I get an adjustment. Fountain of Life Chiro is at 8335 North Congress Avenue, Kansas City. Dr. Alex Nelson will take care of decompression for herniated low back discs. This is really good. Massage therapy, whether you've got headaches, allergies, asthma, neck pain, low back pain, shoulder pain, all of these things can be remedied, can be helped a lot. FountainofLifeChiro.com, 816-741-4711, 816-741-4711. Also, let's not forget Grass Monsters KC, home of the Dixie Chopper, zero turning radius, industrial mowers, residential mowers. They also have these wonderful mowers made in Kansas called Hustlers. If you are considering getting a zero-turning radio mower, do not go to the big box hardware stores and get one of them that's chained out in front because they're junk. They will not last as long. A lot of them are not American-made. So, GrassMonstersKC.com, 5520 Raytown Road, Raytown Mo. We'll start with some good news. This is kind of fun. And, we're in the middle of baseball season. And I live in Kansas City, 176 games altogether, so it's a long haul. And some cool things happen, and we witnessed history last night. Cincinnati Reds player Scooter Gennett apparently hit 4 home runs and drove in 10 runs altogether. There's a 13-1 victory over the Cardinals. Apparently, it was an 0 for 19 slump. He had an 0 for 19 slump during the Reds' 4-2 win over the Cardinals on Monday. And then he went for 5 for 5. Here's the audio of 4 home runs, including a grand slam, being hit in one game.
Liner to right field. Gennett, the first red ever, with 4 home runs in a game. Unbelievable. Can you believe it?
Yeah, that's crazy, man. Usually when I hit a home run, I consider myself lucky, but it's hard to get lucky 4 times in a row. So I think I might be onto something here. It is special. I mean, I never thought I'd hit 4 home runs in a game ever. But man, I'm blessed, and we got a great coaching staff. So all the credit goes to them.
And don't forget God. You got to throw that in there too. I'm serious. Really, really cool. I used to live in Cincinnati, and I lived in St. Louis too, oddly enough. And I've seen a lot of baseball down by the Ohio River in Cincinnati. It's a great place. Great American Ballpark is a great place to see baseball. I do have a couple of baseball stories we're going to get to very shortly, including a Boston Red Sox announcer saying of a Japanese pitcher, that he shouldn't be allowed to have a translator on the mound. And then this happens to a lot of teams now. They have translators on the staff. Or generally, it's Hispanic, because let's face it, a lot of baseball players come up from Cuba and Central and South America, and they play baseball here. So let's just be honest, there are a lot of Hispanics who play baseball. And then there are a lot of Japanese who play baseball. All right? So we'll get into that. Also, Mike Schmidt, ex-ball player, he had the same feelings about that. They're both being called racist. So we'll get to that a little bit later on. It's Ramadan. Did you know it's Ramadan? It's the Islamic holy month. And so far, an estimated 815 deaths and 870 injuries across about 15 countries during the first 12 days of Ramadan. My true love gave to me. This year's holy Muslim month of Ramadan has already marked the bloodiest Ramadan in recent years for adherents of the religion of pieces. Jihadist groups encourage martyrdom, along with their sympathizers and followers, promoting the belief that they will doubly be rewarded if they finally castigate infidels during Ramadan. So you get like twice as many virgins when you die. Where are they going to get all the virgins? I mean, that's a really crappy thing to do. I mean, I know that a lot of Muslims, if you follow Sharia law, they treat women like crap during life, but after death, it's even worse. The previous bloodiest Ramadan on record was last year. I have a list of terror attacks around the world. I'm not going to get into them. Just know that there have been a hell of a lot of them. And until Islam realizes it has a major problem and accepts that it's part of Islam, it's not going to get any better. Unfortunately, it's not going to get any better. I got to tell you, I really think that for Barack Obama to hit at Donald Trump, even though he's only been out of office, 5-6 months, I think it's classless, to be quite honest. George W. Bush never said a thing about Barack Obama in the 8 years that Barack Obama was president. He never said anything negative. Do you recall anything negative? I don't recall anything negative. But Barack Obama's an everyday experience. He was in Canada on Tuesday, speaking to an audience of 6,000 fans at an event hosted by the Montreal Board of Trade. He bashed the rise of extreme nationalism and xenophobia and the politics of us versus them, a clear slap at Trump. Us versus them. Think about how divided the country has been, us versus them. Think about the division of people by race, class, sex that the Democrat Party attempts to do. They drive wedges between everyone. It's really remarkable. Republicans, at least the Republicans, they don't care about your sex. They don't care about your race. Let's talk about also, between the police and the neighborhoods they police. There's another wedge that was driven by during the Obama administration. Anyway, he went on to say we have to sustain our alliances. We have to help other countries with their own development. We've been doing that for our entire history. Nobody in the world has been a better, has fostered more good faith, has shared their wealth like the United States of America. He went on to say that they can call for isolationism or nationalism, or they can consider rolling back the rights of others, or simply they can try to retreat and suggest that we have no obligations beyond our borders, beyond our communities, beyond our tribe. He's calling the country now tribalist. That's academia speak. That is academia speak. That's fresh out of college kind of stuff. All right. Pro-Trump group has launched an attack ad against Jim Comey, oddly enough. Now, this is Wednesday the 6th, or the 7th, I should say, the 7th of June, and Jim Comey just completed his introductory remarks before a congressional panel. All right. But a pro-Trump group has decided to launch an ad. Here is the anti-Comey PSA.
As head of the FBI, James Comey put politics over protecting America. After the FBI banned terms like radical Islam for political correctness, Comey allowed the dangerous practice to continue. When terror attacks were on the rise last year, Comey was consumed with election meddling, and after he testified before the U.S. Senate, Comey's own staff admitted some of his answers were flat out wrong. James Comey, just another D.C. insider, only in it for himself. Paid for by Great America Alliance.
Now, obviously, this is very early, and he's going to be testifying, I would assume, most of the day tomorrow. So I haven't had a chance to digest it fully yet. I haven't heard of any bombshells. If there are, I will certainly admit it here on the podcast. But as of right now, it's just kind of you got to digest these things. You might want to take a Zantac before, though. Yeah, I want to do that. Eric Trump was on Fox News. And Eric Trump is, one of Donald Trump's kids, and he's, the guy's in his 30s. His wife, I think, just had a baby, and he was talking with Sean Hannity about the vitriol right now with regard to the president and his family. It really is. There used to be a time when the kids weren't messed with. All right, Chelsea Clinton went through 8 years in the White House, and nobody went after her. There may have been some smarmy jerks who, said a few things, but it wasn't a wholesale attack on the entire family. And that's what's happening right now. Here is Eric Trump on the Democrat Party that's inspiring this and what they have to offer.
Sad. You see the Democratic Party. They're imploding. They're imploding. They have no message. You see the head of the DNC, who is a total whack job. There's no leadership there. And so what do? They become obstructionists because they have no message of their own. They have no solid candidates of their own. They lost the election that they should have won because they spent 7 times the amount of money that my father spent. They have no message. So what do they try and do? They try and obstruct a great man. They try and obstruct his family. They come after us viciously.
Eric,
and it's truly horrible.
I actually would say.
Okay, so yeah, and that's absolutely true. The Democrats they're not offering any ideas for the future. I had mentioned in a previous podcast, the Hillary Clinton campaign, the only 2 ideas for instance, rebuilding the economy that she had was the largest infrastructure project since World War II. All right. So that's essentially what was called the WPA. The WPA was a workers' they built bridges and dams and whatnot, and it was an attempt to bring us back from the Great Depression, but it actually, many say, lengthened it. And it creates work. It doesn't create jobs. It gets you out there working, but when the bridge is done, and then the work is done, and then the paycheck is done. Her other idea for the economy was raise the minimum wage. Here is Eric Trump talking about CNN and what they've been up to with the family.
Look at that POS comment that you made, all right? Somebody on CNN, an anchor on CNN, called my father on the show a piece of...
That's right.
You might be an opinionated person, but you don't use profanities. You're not a child when it comes to calling people names.
You don't call the president that. You just don't call the president that.
I mean, I got attacked today. I've raised $16.3 million for St. Jude. 16.3. I've dedicated
by the age of what?
I started when I was 21. I've raised $16.3 million for the greatest hospital in the world, that's St. Jude. And I get attacked for it. Barron gets attacked. People come out, they look at my wife. Well, I hope I hope the kid is aborted because God forbid there's another Trump in the world.
Nice.
I mean, the manners, the lack of morals in society is awful. And honestly, I blame most of these politicians. And I blame the media because it's out of control. I mean, the way they act are out of control. And honestly, it's because the Democratic Party is sinking. And I mean that sincerely. They don't have a message. They don't have leadership. So they obstruct. And it's really the worst of the worst, Sean.
Yeah. And, speaking also of division in the country, look what's happened in the last 8 years on campuses. Look at how things have descended on college campuses with regard to political ideology, with regard to race on campus. You talk about the wedges being driven and division being fostered. Look what a mess some parts of the country are right now. Another person who has no ideas. In fact, I'm not sure she's ever had an idea. Maxine Waters. She was approached by Mike Tracy of a liberal blog called Young Turks. And he asked her about Barack Obama's relationship with Syria and Russia. She actually shoved him. But listen to this. This is a woman, again, who has no ideas. All she wants to do is see the president impeached. And to me, that is unspeakable this early into a term. that all you care about is impeachment, you're broken.
When you say Russia's not our friend, was Obama mistaken to forge military cooperation with Russia in Syria and to try to get a START treaty?
Look, you and I have a different agenda, young man. I'm out to impeach this president. Get that straight. I'm out to impeach the president. I'm not going to be diverted by people who are Obama haters.
Do you think?
There you go. It's just remarkable to me. There's a point where you have to do what you are being paid to do what you are elected to do. There may be constituents who want to see Donald Trump impeached. Impeachment should never be part of an agenda. Impeachment happens when high crimes and misdemeanors have happened. It is not something you set out to do before any evidence has been collected. You don't. Tucker Carlson had somebody on. I'll tell you what, Lisa Durden, she works with Black Lives Matter, and Memorial Day, they had a blacks only memorial event. I think this was in New York. And I want you to listen to the dripping hate and racism that this woman has in her soul. And this is, I grew up in the 70s and 80s, and obviously, we've come a long way with race, but I don't think we've slid back. I think we've come a long way, but some people want to take us back. And it's getting to the point where it's dangerous. And Black Lives Matter fostered this. Black Lives Matter was where a lot of this was born. Because Black Lives Matter started because of Michael Brown being shot in St. Louis, and deservedly so. He charged a police officer, attempt to take the gun, strong-armed, robbed a convenience store, and then, and he got shot. Officer had to take him out. And they built a movement to draw attention from the crisis in the African-American community in the inner cities and place blame on others. And that's what this has all been about. It's a massive, massive distraction from the crisis in the African-American community. That's why it exists. Blame the police. Blame the whatever. Blame white privilege. Here's the first soundbite from this woman from Black Lives Matter. It gets spicy.
What I say to that is boo-hoo-hoo.
Now, she's talking about people who complained that this Memorial Day event literally excluded white people. It said, you're not welcome here. You will be escorted out.
What I say to that is boo-hoo-hoo. You white people are angry because you couldn't use your white privilege card to get invited
Lisa.
to the Black Lives Matters All Black Memorial Day celebration. Wow. Let me contextualize that for you. Memorial Day was created
I don't want
by...
you to, wait,
Memorial
so
Day
now,
was
first of all, I don't want you to contextualize. Right?
I need to contextualize it because Memorial Day was created by black former slaves in
people on the basis of their
1865
race. Wait, okay.
to honor those individuals who were Union soldiers who fought and died for our freedom. So Black Lives Matter, in that same vein, decided to get together with black folks.
I'm not going to let you filibuster past my question.
Okay, so she's trying to filibuster. She came in hot and very racist. Very, very racist. This is an insult to interracial couples. To have an event like this, there are interracial couples and they're very happy. And they have children together. And one of the spouses could attend this event, and the other one would be excluded. It's beyond shocking. It's frightening, actually.
White folks crack me up all of a sudden when we want to have
question.
one
It's a
day
universal
for
value.
black folks to focus on ourselves, but you've been having White Day forever. You don't say the words anymore because you know it's politically incorrect, but you've had an all-white...
You mean the word that Bill Maher said the other day?
Oscars, all these movies with all-white
Well, if you
actors,
don't like
movie
it,
after movie
why
after
are you
movie,
perpetuating it?
all-white TV shows with white casts over and over and over again. The Bachelorette, it took 11 seasons to have a black Bachelorette.
Okay, so, wow. Because there's only been one black Bachelorette, we need to have our own black event. I remember when I was a kid, and I grew up in Lily White, Southwest Iowa, and there were shows that we loved. Sanford and Son. We loved the Jeffersons. TV show, a series came on. It was Alex Haley's Roots. And we sat around the electronic hearth in just in awe of the story. We didn't think about, look at those slaves. I sure wish I had me a slave. No. And I even though I'm from Iowa, I've never called a black person a disparaging name. And I don't understand it. And my son is, even further removed from it than I am. He's 17 years old and my daughter is 11. And my daughter's best friend is a black girl. And she doesn't think twice about it. I asked her a while back, I said, do you think of her skin color? No. It was absurd. It was absurd on the face of it to her. But unfortunately, there are people like this woman who the chip on her shoulder has been allowed to grow dramatically. And she does have a chip on her shoulder for a lot of reasons. I'm going to have to find, I saw a video the other day about the truth about white privilege in the country. And if there's any privilege in the country, it exists in Asian communities and Indian communities with regard to personal income. Whites are way down on the scale. They are. White people are way down the scale. Of course, obviously, there are economic issues with the black community. A lot of them are brought on by family issues. I think you can look at the disintegration of the African-American family that took place in the 70s. There was a ADC, Aid for Dependent Children, that actually they would have agents go to homes and make sure there wasn't a man living there. And then that caused the disintegration of the African-American family in inner cities to the tune of 70% of children being born out of wedlock, all right? Among other things, and the murder rate being 10 times the national average. We've been through this before. But this woman has a chip on her shoulder. And, there are a lot of white people. I don't know, you've driven into southern Missouri, some of the poorest parts of southern Missouri are Appalachia, and seen the poverty that exists in many aspects of the white community. Did you ever get up at 5 a.m. and go out and do chores on your farm and scrape by? Because I did when I was a kid. Busted my butt from age 10 years old in the fields. And did it until I was 18 years old. Then I had a crappy job in college. And I've gone through ups and downs. Okay, been unemployed a couple of years in my career, by the way. And, so I wouldn't know. I don't know if that sort of, I don't know what privilege that has gotten me, because everything I've gotten, I've had to fight for. Lisa Durden, I don't know. Back to Lisa Durden with Tucker Carlson.
People get weddings where they exclude children. It doesn't mean they don't like children. They don't know if your kids are going to be monsters and those kids are going to be well behaved. So
she's comparing white adults to children, some who are little monsters.
Same thing. Black Lives Matter decided to have one day where they didn't want white folks who were going to be off the rails. They don't know if you're going to be the ones behaved and for them or the ones who are there against them. So they picked one day to do the celebration.
Let me just ask you a quick question.
Go right ahead.
Do you think it's racist to exclude people on the basis of their skin color?
I think it's racist when you've been excluding people for hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years.
Stop with your silly lectures. I'm asking you a very simple question.
We're forced to come together collectively to celebrate ourselves because you guys won't. You are the largest.
I remember I lived in Cincinnati, and every year they do a black family reunion. That was a big thing in the summer, the black family reunion, just for black people. Okay? Yeah, this happens a lot.
Society, let's be real here.
You guys, I'm talking about what I thought we all believed. Let me ask you this. Do you think it would be fair if white people did come to a Black Lives Matter celebration?
They do all the time. When you look at Black Lives Matter,
do you use the same water fountain that they do?
Have the same water fountain. And this is happening on campus, too. There are kids, University of Chicago, students of color, African-American kids, I believe Asian kids. There's one other group. They all want their own separate dormitories. That is akin to separate water fountains. It's breathtaking. Here's a little bit more of this exchange with Lisa Durden.
In this particular day, they said, stay your asses out. We want to celebrate today. We don't want anybody going against us today.
And you can't celebrate if someone who doesn't look like you is around?
Yes, you can, but you can
You're
also
demented,
say, I don't want to do it. It's a personal
You're
choice.
sick, and what you're saying is disgusting. And if you were a Nazi, I would say the same thing to you.
Luckily, I'm not a Nazi.
No, I wouldn't necessarily say that. I think there's probably a really good chance you're a fascist.
What you're saying is indistinguishable from what they are saying, which is, I don't care your opinions, I don't care your views, your life experience, your intentions. All I care about is the way you look, something that you can't control. And on that basis alone, I'm judging you, and I'm hostile to you. That's the case you're making, and it's divisive and wrong.
It is. And when did this all start? When did this level of thought, of vitriol start? Let's just go back to the last administration. The president who says that we shouldn't be divided. You think that this movement didn't rose during the Obama administration? You think he didn't have anything to do with it? I know that his silence spoke volumes with regard to Black Lives Matter. Here's where she gets a little weird. This is the final soundbite of Lisa Durden, where she's convinced that Tucker Carlson will have her back on.
Do the people in your world, your parents, your siblings, your kids, your friends, do they agree with you on this?
My family respects my right to free speech.
No, don't give me that dumb answer. I mean, do they agree with what you just said, though? Do you know a lot of people who agree with what you just said?
Speech.
Whatever. No one's contesting it.
I'll see you next time on your show. You'll be inviting me on again.
Do you know a lot of people who agree with you?
Tucker, I'm going to see you again in less than a month. Ratings are going up.
I don't even know what you're talking about, and I'm not sure I look forward to it. But thanks for coming on tonight, Lisa.
Wow. Just a tood. She's just got a tood. She's got a bad attitude and a chip on her shoulder. And that has been able to blossom. And it's been able to fester and get worse. Evergreen State University campuses in Washington. I've been talking about this school because there's a professor there, Brett Weinstein, who said that he didn't want to take part in an event where every white student, professor, and administrator leave the campus for a day. It used to be that people of color would leave the campus, and he said no. Now, he has endured threats. He has been forced to leave campus. And now there are some student vigilantes patrolling the campus with baseball bats. Sharon Goldman, an administrator, said, we're aware of a small group of students coordinating a community patrol of housing and campus. We acknowledge and understand the fear and concerns that are motivating these actions because there have been death threats and violence and all that. And it's coming from the kids carrying the bats, by the way. It's coming from the left. The left is the violent mob on campus. Make no bones about it. They are the violent mob on campus. They are the Antifa. They are the ones wearing the masks to cover their identities. They're the ones carrying bats. Apparently, at least one taser being carried by these kids. One student told Wendy Indris, a professor, because I had shown some criticism of the protest that was occurring on campus in early weeks, I have become targeted and harassed by a wide number of students on campus. Recently, there have been a number of students who patrol lower campus with weapons like baseball bats and tasers who claim to be making the campus safer, but in reality are making campus more hostile. Get your asses to classes, and if you are caught with a baseball bat on campus, you are expelled. You're expelled. That's it. The adults have got to take charge. They have got to take charge. So a Boston Red Sox analyst, Jerry Remy, I guess, made a remark after Yankees pitcher Masahiro Tanaka communicated via a translator during a team meeting last night. And this apparently is racist. Here is the exchange.
It was a relatively quick conversation. Larry Rothschild, along with the translator.
Oh, that's what it was. The train. I had that wrong. I thought it was the trainer going out there, but I forgot with Tanaka they take out a translator. I don't think that should be legal.
Seriously,
I really don't.
Jackie Bradley, 0 for 1. What is it you don't like about that?
Learn baseball language. Learn. It's pretty simple. I mean, you break it down pretty easy between pitching coach and pitcher after a long period of time.
And if anything, maybe just for interviews with the host country. Now, I don't know. I know that a lot of American baseball players go play in Japan. I don't know the percentage of them that speak Japanese. I don't know if they bring translators. If I was being paid millions and millions of dollars by an American baseball team, I'd want to maybe get the Hooked on Phonics, get the get the language program DVDs and get to work on it a little bit. But he's been branded a racist, of course, racist, because that's the, when you want to end the discussion, you just shout racism. Some tweets. Jeremy Rima just got full-on racist about Tanaka on the NESN broadcast. O'Brien tried hard to save it. Gah. Has Jeremy Remy ever been a non-English speaker in the U.S.? That's my question. I know I have, and it sucks. This is from Sung Kim, but you learned, didn't? Yeah, you learned. Jeremy Remy, this is according to a guy named Will online. Jeremy Remy doesn't think Tanaka's translator should be allowed to come to the mound, learn baseball language. He says, yikes. It's not yikes. What's wrong with saying maybe you could learn the language? You've been to France? I've not been to France, but in France, you're kind of expected to speak French. And I remember when I was in high school taking French, I thought it was very arrogant that, the French people, they make sure that you speak, and they're offended if you don't speak French. No, I'm 100% in their corner. 100% in their corner. Mike Schmidt, ex-Philly, I believe used to play third base. Apparently there's a center fielder, Obadil Herrera. You could tell I'm not a sports guy, right? He was on a morning show in Philadelphia. Apparently had a trouble with the Herrera's translator, because he has a translator as well. Here is the exchange that this actually preceded the one in Boston, but they're both being called racists.
Okay, I'm curious when you look at a double, because that is definitely not the
a
kind
double.
Of play
it's a double.
Were. He's rather undisciplined.
Almost exact opposite.
Exactly. Yeah. So when you see that, is that a guy you can build a team around? Like, what do you see? How do you project him down the road, Mike?
My honest answer to that would be no, because of a couple of things. First of all, it's a language barrier, and because of that, I think he can't be a guy that would sort of sit in a circle with 4 or 5 American players and talk about the game, or try and learn about the game, or discuss the inner workings of the game, or come over to a guy and say, man, you got to run that ball out, or something, it just can't be, because of the language barrier, that kind of a player.
Yeah, and do NBA players who come from Russia or come from wherever, do they have translators? I'm just curious. Like I said, I'm not a sports guy. I don't listen to sports talk radio. This podcast, I've spoken more about sports than I have probably in 6 months. but is that the case? That they, if you want to write me, carsonontheradio@gmail.com, carsonontheradio@gmail.com. There are sports, we got a lot of Russian hockey players. Is there a translator? I would think in the off season, I'd be all over the language tapes in the workout room. That's what I would be listening to while I was lifting weights and throwing balls. Okay, let's move on from sports. I'm going to wrap up a couple of kind of fun stories here at the end here. The safest and least safe states in the union. I'm going to share the details on that in just a second. Again, if you need chiropractic care, Dr. Alex Nelson, fountainoflifechiro.com. Carpal tunnel, neuropathy, hip pain, knee pain. Got neuropathy in my feet a little bit. They take care of athletes, professionals, police officers, first responders. Decompression for herniated low back discs. Call them, 816-741-4711. 816-741-4711, fountainoflifechiro.com. Dr. Alex Nelson, glad to have you on board. It's really nice to have you on board. Okay, new study by Wallet Hub has the most and least safe states based on everything from crime rates to natural disasters. All right? So there are apparently dozens of legit factors that went into determining safety. I'm not going to get into all of it. A lot of it has to do with just the weather you're at. A lot of these states are probably poorer. And generally, poorer people don't live as long because their lives are more filled with danger than rich people a lot of the times. I hate to be vague, but you know what I'm talking about. Let's go to the safest. Here they are. Vermont, Maine, Massachusetts, Minnesota, New Hampshire, Washington State, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Utah, and Hawaii. Okay, those are the safest states. The least, this won't come as a big surprise, Louisiana, Mississippi, right up there. You know, they always are. Oklahoma, South Carolina, Missouri, Arkansas, Montana, South Dakota. I wonder why that. South Dakota, my mom lives in South Dakota. Florida, and Tejas, Texas. Those are the most dangerous places, I guess. For what it's worth. This is a kind of an interesting story I saw online. It's gone viral. There is a YouTube channel called Catch a Cheater. And there is a woman who calls herself Julie, appeared on this To Catch a Cheater, and she explained that she wanted a divorce. Wanted a reason to divorce her husband, so she turned to them. All right. And they tried to set this guy up. Apparently, there's this guy who hosts the show, Luis Mercado, set up the husband outside his business in California with a female underwear model named Christina. She was wearing a skin-tight dress, said she was on the way to Victoria's Secret. Now, this is, I don't know how you're going to seduce somebody on the sidewalk that you don't know. I want you to listen to this attempt to seduce this guy, and this guy basically backfired on his wife who wants a divorce.
Have any good places to eat, for young people? Or
not really my scene, though.
Are you sure? I mean, restaurants or bars.
Yeah, there's fabulous wine bars.
Well, we should maybe meet up this weekend. They're gonna be ditching me, and I'm gonna be all alone. Do you want to exchange numbers or something, and we could hang out?
What?
No, thank you.
Are you sure? I mean, we could just grab each other's Facebook. Give me your number, and then we'll meet up this weekend, and it'll be great.
Good, though.
I mean, you don't want to hang out.
This is the worst sting I've ever heard. That you do this in a bar after he's 3 sheets, in the wind. And that's when you attempt. This is just on a sidewalk. I've never seen you before.
With me? Oh.
And she gets more desperate as she realizes she's falling flat on her face. And I don't think she's used to having men tell her no.
You're married. You're going to eat alone.
I was going to place around the corner. They knew.
Oh, I mean, think about it. Just you, me. It would be.
I'm old enough to be your dad.
That's fine. You can be my daddy.
Okay, that's just kind of gross. That's just kind of gross.
Nice booty.
Off, little girl. All right? I said no. I meant it.
You see what I'm talking about? That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, she grabbed his ass. It's kind of like...
Well, that's...
Very nice. Yeah, so he says, F off, little girl, and then she's not used to having men tell her no. Let's just put it that way. Okay? All right, kind of a fun way to wrap up the on the radio program, the podcast today. Want to remind you, once again, if you're thinking about a riding lawnmower, if you're thinking about a zero turning radius, go to Grass Monsters KC and check out the Silver Eagle. From Dixie Chopper, if you want a commercial mower, or they've got the Z2, which is a residential mower. These things have steering that is so... how do I... you could steer with your pinkies. They're wonderful. The Hustler mower is made in Kansas. They sell those too there. They're just beautiful machines. So if you're considering buying something that's going to last you a very, very long time, and you want whether you got a small acreage, whether you got a church lawn that you're going to be mowing or whatever, talk to the guys at Grass Monsters KC, grassmonsterskc.com. Okay, time for me to get the heck out of here. That has been episode number 110. We will see you back here for 111 real soon.
Thanks for listening to The Rob Carson Show. Friend him on Facebook at Carson Show, on Twitter at Rob Carson, and on Instagram, I think Facebook and Twitter are enough for now. We'll see you soon.